right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock, it is time for Veterans News. And today, a full hour of Veterans News hosted by your hosts, Dr. Jose Torres and Dr. Howard Eskildsen. They're both doctors at the VA clinic here in Ocala, and they will be able to take your phone calls if you have any questions about any of the topics that they bring up. The number, when we get to that in just a few minutes, is 352-622-9622. And this is, again, a full hour program. Good morning, Dr. Jose Torres and Dr. Howard Eskildsen. Good morning, gentlemen. How are both of you?
Good morning, Larry.
Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. How was your health? You guys healthy? And did you manage to get past the flu season?
Well, we don't really know any good doctors, so what are we supposed to do? No, we're doing fine. It's funny. It seems like when I was younger, I caught everything that came around. Now I get less and less of it. I don't know if I'm dealing with a population that does involve a lot of children, or if it's just the fact I've been exposed to everything else and have an immunity to quite a bit of stuff.
Wow. I wonder if that's true for a lot of doctors. I mean, you're exposed to everything, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So that must be, and nurses, I'm guessing medical professionals in general, maybe you have more of an immunity to things because of the things you've been exposed to.
Yeah. We medical professionals or healthcare professionals, we develop immunity to a lot of medical issues, especially infections. And when a medical professional, healthcare professional gets sick, sometimes hit us hard. Because our defense system is the bacteria are a little stronger and hit us harder compared to the general population.
Is there a way to measure how strong our immune system is? Is there a way to measure that?
There's no real direct measure. I mean, there's immunoglobulin measurements and stuff like that, but they don't really tell you how well you're going to fight off a specific bacteria. And part of the problem, too, is when you have an infection going around, if you really find out, the ways to find out are doing viral cultures or by doing what they call titers before and after antibodies, and so they'll tell you, oh, that's what you had. You know, it's kind of like if you were driving your car down the road, and 2 days later you find out, oh, you should have turned right at the stop sign.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Or that you should have stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is this flu? I don't want to take up your time because I know you probably have a topic planned.
Well, we're talking about the flu.
We're going to talk about flu.
But why this year do we see so many fatalities from the flu?
The mutation of the viruses that we're having.
And it seems to hit people who are healthy and young.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the frightening thing about it.
Yes.
I have some data on the first 3 weeks of January. During the week of January, there was the third week in January, there was 928 influenza deaths.
Wow.
There were 3,000 pneumonia deaths. So you combine that together, that's over 4,000 deaths just that 1 week. And the reason they combine that is because when you get influenza, sometimes it'll progress to pneumonia. Sometimes there will be secondary bacterial infections that'll promote the pneumonia. So you're not sure all the time, was it the flu that contributed to this or what? But you're talking like 4,000 deaths a week at this point, as of just a couple of weeks ago. That's nationwide.
Is pneumonia a byproduct of something else? In other words, it seems like the virus is what causes influenza. Does pneumonia come from the flu? In other words, is that always the case, or is there a virus that causes pneumonia?
There are different types of pneumonia. You can have viral pneumonia, bacterial pneumonia, fungus pneumonia. There are different types of pneumonia. It's a big topic.
You know, I don't know this for a fact. I don't want to speak out of line, but I think my own father died from pneumonia that was caused by congestive heart failure.
Yes.
Is there a virus involved with that? That's just the heart slowing down or something? What is that?
Well, when you have congestive heart failure, you have a patient that the heart is not pumping correctly. Depending on the side of the heart that is affected, the patient can start accumulating fluid inside the lungs. The return, because of the pool of blood is more inside the heart, that blood is flowing backwards to the lungs. So basically you accumulate fluid in there and you can cause swelling. And if you add sodium to the diet, that may cause more edema, that's the correct term, and congestion in the lungs. And what are you basically doing? You are letting bacteria to grow. You're giving them a media to grow.
Oh my God.
And
And they produce more fluid, which even makes the breathing even worse.
So we literally, is pneumonia like drowning? Are we basically drowning?
Can be. And basically, when you have an infection, it will affect the various parts. In other words, you can have a bacterial infection or a viral infection. It might cause a sinus infection, might cause a throat infection, might cause bronchitis, or it might go to the lungs. And what goes to the lungs infects the lungs. We call it pneumonia. And the funny part of it is, not funny part, but the strange part of it is, once you get a pneumonia going, there's other characters that kind of pile on sometimes. And the one is called Streptococcus pneumonia, or is that the old term now? Pneumococcus, we call it now. And that's why we do the pneumonia shots, because there's certain vaccines that can help with that.
There was a story earlier this week, that South Florida had released a bunch of sterile mosquitoes, male mosquitoes, so that the population of mosquitoes would go away, because mosquitoes are being blamed for carrying the viruses that cause many of the illnesses, Zika being one of them. And Zika, I wanted to ask you about that specifically, because that was like last year's story. But to make it veteran specific, and just for a question real quickly, if you are serving in a place that you wouldn't have ever gone for a vacation, you wouldn't go to Afghanistan, right? I mean, do they bring back diseases that maybe they wouldn't have had if they just went to Paris or someplace?
There's a possibility of that, although more often I think it's civilian passengers that transmit as we travel various places. With that, and they're using genetically engineered mosquitoes, so basically they shoot blanks, so to speak. So they go ahead and breed and stuff, but nothing comes to the eggs, and that would help with the Zika virus, but also the encephalitis viruses and various other things, which we do have to worry about here.
But that has nothing to do with the flu. The flu is transmitted different way.
The flu is basically transmitted through the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. In other words, if you are, say you're walking through a thing, they've got a hand railing, you're sliding your hand railing, somebody else has been coughing into their hand and using the railing, you got the virus, your eye itches, you rub your eye, it's going in through the eye.
That's why I'm commenting whatever I'm doing.
Or you have somebody that's coughing, and they'll spread the virus up to 8-10 feet from where they're at. I had a specific experience with that about a year and a half ago when we were on an airline for our 3-week vacation, and right behind us was this gentleman. He's a cute little boy, probably about 3-4 years old, and you could hear the kid was a little stuffy, and all of a sudden you heard this big wet sneeze, and I heard this voice, "Oh, buddy, you're just covered with boogers." I thought, oh no.
Oh no.
And my wife and I were sick the whole 3 weeks of the vacation.
Oh really? So that's
because it was aerosol. It was blowing into the air. I mean,
know exactly where you got it from.
Yeah, we sure do.
So
unfortunately,
talk to the people who are going through it right now. Is there any way to shorten it? Any way to like over the counter stuff? Is that good, bad, or do you have any opinions about those things?
For over the counter, we just encourage people to take Tylenol. That's the best. That's the best for fever and pain, muscle pain. A lot of water, hydration. Because it's a virus, antibiotics, they're not going to work. We don't use antibiotics for virus.
Okay, right.
So it's mainly recommended to stay home, hand wash a lot. If you're working and you're diagnosed with flu, or you have or suspect that you have flu symptoms, stay at home, hand wash. If you have family in the house, to prevent spread the disease, it's hand wash. That is.
Do those holistic things make a difference? You know, you hear about these like airborne. They look like Alka-Seltzer. You put them in water, and they have vitamin C. They've got zinc, whatever else they've got. Does that stuff make a difference?
The evidence is very limited that it helps.
Really?
I mean, we'd like to think that it would, but the evidence is very limited. There's very little scientific support for the effectiveness of them.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about prevention. Another thing that a person can do to help minimize spread, you can't help but cough or sneeze, and if you can get into the crook of the elbow, so you cough into the forward bend of the elbow rather than into your hand, the germs are more concentrated there and you get less in your hand, so you'll spread less around. And of course, if you're in a public place using stuff, before you touch your hands or face, use a little hand sanitizer, because that does work for that. Yeah. There's a video that's gone viral on Facebook, and if you just do a web search, for the video, wash your stinking hands. It's a funny video that was recorded by an ER nurse who just gotten off a shift, and it shared with things about people coming in there. For instance, somebody had come in because one of their players was sick on their softball or whatever team, and so instead of bringing a sick person in, they brought all 15 of the team members in so that they could all be exposed to the virus, and then you have one person walk in sick and 15 walk out that are going to get sick.
Oh,
and there was a few and it's just, and she does it in a very humorous way.
Oh, my gosh.
If you just Google "wash your stinking hands" for the video, it's quite entertaining to see.
wow.
It's well done.
Yeah. And
If
go
you
ahead.
can put the video in after the presentation today, it's a funny video. It's very nice.
You mean include it on your video here? Put the video on the video?
Yeah.
I can do that. I can do that.
And when I said it's gone viral, no pun was intended.
That's good. That's good. The phone lines are open if you have a question. If you're going through the flu, that seems to be the topic today. Maybe you've got some remedies of your own that you'd like to share with the doctors, or maybe you are just dealing with it for a month. I don't know if I had the flu or the cold. I don't know what I had, but January was my month. It was the whole month, and I usually am able to kick something quicker than that.
Now, the question has been, too, about the vaccines. Is it worthwhile? And yes, it is. There's questions of how effective that it is. And in Australia, their experience for the H1N1 H3N2 virus that's going around, it may only be 10% effective, but there are other flu viruses going around, and overall the effectiveness is probably around 30%. Now, that doesn't sound very much, but if we could have prevented 30% of the 1,000 deaths per week that are coming, it's still a worthy goal.
Yeah, that would be 5 of those 15 players that you just told me about.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let me take a little break, and we'll be right back. This is a full-hour show today, so there are a good 43 minutes left in the show. We'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 622-9622. Before I take the break, let me do 2 quick live reads of some sponsors. You've got Bob Wines, Community Gardens and Nursery. They've been sponsoring Veterans News for a very long time, and they are at 2610 Southeast 38th Street here in Ocala. When it comes to landscaping, Bob Wines has what you need, everything from small plants to large trees, mulch, fertilizer, and a whole lot more. Bob Wines will even deliver, plant, and guarantee their trees. Plus, they offer a 10% discount to veterans. Bob Wines Community Gardens and Nursery has been keeping you blooming since 1952. Give them a call, 629-5766. And also extend the hand of thanks to Hires Baxley. They've been sponsoring Veterans News also for a long time. Hires Baxley Funeral Services and Highland Memorial Park. Hires Baxley has had generations of families honor them with their trust and confidence. They believe it's because for the last 128 years, their team of caring professionals have established a reputation of serving families with excellence and compassion. Hires Baxley currently partners with the Boy Scouts of America, Troop Number 72, to properly dispose of decommissioned American flags. They also are a drop-off location for the program called Cell Phones for Soldiers, helping to provide minutes that matter and helping heroes home, to extra other programs that have to do with giving soldiers cell phones. Hires Baxley is located at 910 East Silver Springs Boulevard here in Ocala, or if you have any questions, give them a call at 629-7171, and their website is hiresbaxley.com. There's a hyphen between hires and Baxley, hires-baxley.com. If you have any questions, you can call. The number is 622-9622. We've got a 2-minute break, and we will be right back.
Langley Health Services, located at 7205 Southeast Merricamp Road in Ocala, is a federally qualified health center offering family practice, pediatrics, podiatry, dental, behavioral health, and radiology services. Call 352-680-7000 for an appointment today. Most insurance accepted, sliding scale for those who qualify. Langley Health Services. Call today, 352-680-7000.
Are you in need of custom screen printing, embroidery, or promotional items? Then look no further and come visit the brand new Legacy Team Sales. LTS is conveniently located off 17th Street next to Armstrong Homes in beautiful Ocala. We offer the best prices and highest quality products for your company, team, school, or nonprofit. Whether looking for screen printed shirts, embroidered polos, or travel team uniforms, you'll be sure to find it at Legacy Team Sales. Come visit our new 27,000 square foot facility. Our friendly and knowledgeable sales staff will assist you in every part of your custom purchase. LTS carries the hottest brands in the industry like Under Armour, Russell, Mizuno, Asics, Badger Sports, Gildan, Pacific, Ogio, and many more. At LTS, screen printing embroidery is done in-house and we guarantee customer satisfaction. Stop by, give us a call, or check us out on the web at shoplts.com. Remember the name, LTS.
All right, 20 minutes after 9 o'clock, 61 degrees. Temperatures are expected to reach 81 today, and looks like a pretty nice day today, tomorrow, the entire weekend. I don't see any rain mentioned until Tuesday. Let's return now to Veterans News. In the studio, Dr. Jose Torres and Dr. Howard Eskildsen, both from the VA clinic here in Ocala. And doctors, you have a phone call. If you put your headset on, you'll be able to hear the caller. And just kind of double check, make sure you can hear me. Yes. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling and for waiting.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the doctor's opinion with regard to vitamin tablets and supplements that are sold in the stores. The reason I ask this is because my daughter is married to a physician in Tennessee, and she believes that these vitamin pills and supplements don't work as they claim they should. So thank you for taking my call, and I'll just listen to what they say.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the scientific evidence on a lot of the over-the-counter things is very lacking. In other words, there aren't studies that show that most of them work. There's been some concerns that maybe zinc might have helped, but that's a hard one to do double-blind tests on to find out if it really does, because when you get the pill, because of the taste, you know you've got zinc, or if you don't, because it's got a distinctive
Good
taste.
point, yeah.
And there's theoretical reasons why some of them may work, but there's a wide variety of things that are available, and some are reputable and some are not. It's very hard to discern which is which.
So is that why the studies aren't done, or is it not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration?
There was a thing called the Hatch Act, which was in the previous century. I think it was in the 1990s, where so-called alternative medicines could be sold if they made no claims that they cured any disease or whatever. So they have very specific wording, such as it may help improve the symptoms of. But when it comes through in the advertising, people came through, it's proven that works for this and this and this and this. Well, that's not exactly how it's worded. So, and they don't, the producers, manufacturers, many of them do not do the studies. They just go ahead and sell it. So, which is concerning.
If you get the flu, do you have the same immune benefit as you would have gotten from the vaccine? Does the flu itself like once you're over it, are you now protected from that strain of the flu?
Yes. Because your body develop immunity.
Okay. But the same strain doesn't reoccur next year? There's like a new edition every year or something?
But I'd like to get back to our caller. Did you have other questions at this point?
Oh, I'm sorry. She's listening on the radio. She's not on the phone.
Oh, okay.
She hung up.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And thank you for calling.
But what she brings up is a question that I hear all the time on this show. And here's my circumstance and Robin's circumstance. We speak to authors. And if you write a book that says, here's the cure for the common cold, well, you're going to come across as being the guy who knows. And then we'll have another guest, the next day who will counter that and say, and so that's why I think it's confusing to us as just the average person, because you hear an interview on a radio, and there's a guy or a lady telling you this is what you should do. And then the next day, no, that's not what you should do. Everybody's disagreeing. That's why I like when real doctors like yourselves come in here. And we can really get what you see, because you work with it every day.
Yeah, and we all have opinions on what will work and what doesn't work. And the science will support part of it. And part of it well, the science just hasn't been done, or it's very difficult to do, which we'll discover on some other topics we'll be covering down the line. Now, one thing, even just diagnosing the flu can be a challenge, because there's rapid tests that can be done. And when I used to work urgent care in Washington State, we had a kit almost like a strep kit where we do that. Well, it sounds really great. You can find out within 15 minutes do you have the flu, except that the sensitivity was only about 50 to 60%, which means you're going to miss almost half of the cases and think they don't have the flu. And if you go to the other types of things that can be done, sensitivity may be 60% or a little bit better.
Really?
But if you go by symptoms, if there's flu in the community, and you go by symptoms of do they have a cough and a fever, abrupt onset, that's almost 80% sensitive for picking up the flu.
I don't want to presume that I know the answer to this, but maybe it is as simple as what somebody like me would think. But here's the question. Why does it seem like the flu is more dangerous for very, very young children and very old people? Why are the two extremes of our ages more vulnerable?
Classically, they have been, and I think if somebody figures out why that is, they will probably win the Nobel Prize. But typically, the very, very young and the very elderly are more at risk. But for some reason, this flu going around is hitting healthy people.
Yes,
And
I've
generally,
heard that,
we blamed it on the fact that, well, when you're young and immature, your immune system hasn't developed. When you're old, you're debilitated. That certainly makes you at higher risk for disease. But this one, we're not sure exactly why, but it's the mutation of the virus. It's the same question, why was the 1917 virus so deadly? I mean, that was a world pandemic, killed millions around the world. And since that time, there's been other pandemics, but nothing quite as severe. There was something unique to that virus that made it especially deadly, but we really don't know what that is.
I didn't know that.
And there was even some concern. They have samples of the virus in storage. Do we dare resurrect it to study it for fear of releasing it? And they actually did, and some of them did get released. It turned out it lost its virulence.
Oh, okay.
Which goes into a whole other thing on epidemiology. I could go on this for hours, but I won't go that direction too much further.
We do have another phone call, so if you put your headsets back on, we will go to the phone. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you. Doctors, can you catch more than one strain of the flu at the same time? The reason I ask, although one of the strains is not flu, but people have been coming down with like regular head colds or chest colds, and then later on they come down with the flu. Can you catch both of those at the same time, and would they be like double trouble?
Yeah, you can. There's some cases that you can have influenza A and influenza B, or you are getting better from one, and then in the short period you can get infected with the second one.
Okay, is there anything you can do to really help? They say like taking a lot of vitamin C. Is that any helpful?
Well, vitamin C, like Dr. Eskildsen was saying, there's no proof evidence or scientific evidence, but empirically people take vitamin C and zinc, which is a Zicam, not to do an advertisement to a product, but just to enhance the immune system, or there's other products in the market with high levels of vitamin C to boost the immune system. Basically, the ascorbic acid, what it does is increase the one of the cycles inside the cells, and that will make the immune system to reproduce and defend against any diseases that we have around.
Yeah. See, if you come down with what I would call a regular cold that goes in your chest because of this big flu thing going around, should you go to your doctor to kind of get something so that if you do get the big flu thing, you're better protected?
Well, vaccines are designed to protect us against certain medical conditions, in this case the flu, but not all of them are 100% effective. You know, you're going to have certain percentage of protection. So that, with that being said, means is that if the vaccine is 40% or 50% effective, you have a 50% chance to get infected with flu.
Wow. Doctor, I'm sorry, we have to take a little break, and we'll be right back. Thank you for the call.
Okay, thank you.
We have a whole half hour left, so please, to the caller we just had, you are definitely welcome to call back, or I think you might still be on. No, okay, you could have hung on. So we'll be right back. We've got a half hour left. The number to call is 622-9622. Dr. Howard Eskildsen and Dr. Jose Torres are here from the VA clinic in Ocala. This is Veterans News, and once a month, Dr. Eskildsen and Dr. Torres come into the studio to help us with what's going on in our bodies. And right now it's the flu, and I don't think any of us have been spared this one. We'll take a little break and be right back.
News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu.
There was just a lot of blood everywhere, and there was bodies.
A student part of the rattled community trying to make sense of yesterday's deadly school rampage in Florida. The president this morning suggesting the alleged killer Nicholas Cruz was mentally disturbed, tweeting neighbors and classmates knew he was a big problem. The 19-year-old expelled former student booked on 17 counts of premeditated murder in Broward County this morning. Meanwhile, the first identified victim being called a hero. Witnesses say he
jumped in front of a hail of bullets to save his students. His name, Aaron Feiss. He was an assistant football coach and security guard at the school.
Fox's Todd Pyro. And at the Olympics in South Korea, American skier Michaela Schifrin taking gold for her giant slalom win. Fox News. We report. You decide.
When you're hiring, you don't want to sort through dozens of irrelevant resumes. You want a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Diana's hired with Indeed.
It just gives me so many more qualified applicants to choose from.
Post a job in minutes. Set up screener questions. Then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed.
Pros in the know start with Lowe's, because at Lowe's, the more pros buy, the more they save. And they save on the brands they trust, like SharkBite. Have a plumbing job coming up? Get up to 20% off select SharkBite push fittings by buying in bulk. And not only does Lowe's save pros money, we also save pros time. Just order ahead on Lowe'sForPros.com and your order will be ready for pickup at the Pro Desk. So, Pro, now that you know, let's get started. See the Lowe's Pro Desk or Lowe'sForPros.com for more details.
Hey, it's not too early to be thinking about those spring veggies, and around here, that means it's time for a trip to Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens in Ocala. Bob has a new selection of spring veggies. You name it, he's got them at just $3.49 for the jumbo 4-pack. Check this week's ad or go to bobwinescamelliagardens.net for more great deals like camellias as low as $9.99. 5-inch Gerber daisies, regularly $5.99, just $2.99. At least 10%, maybe more off on all garden decor. And how about that half price sale on all trees in stock? Buy one, get a second one at half price. Be sure to walk the walk. The Camellia Show Spectacular, the annual event going on right now up until April. It's Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, just east of Lake Weir Avenue. Open daily till 4, Saturdays till 2. Homegrown, locally owned, in the same blooming place since 1952.
Hey Tish, this email about honey baked ham giving our listeners $20 off of a 9-pound ham just for mentioning WOCA, is this right?
Yes, while supplies last, our listeners can save $20 off of a 9-pound or larger ham. All they have to do is tell them that they heard about it on WOCA.
Okay, call Honey Baked Ham today, 861-0011, or stop by 2709 Southwest 27th Avenue, right there behind Best Buy. Tell them you heard about the special on WOCA and save $20. But hurry in, this is a limited time offer.
Hello, may I speak to Ron DeMott, please?
Speaking.
Ron, this is Larry Whitler at WOCA, and your name was picked to win 2 tickets to the Daytona 500 this Sunday.
That is cool.
Yay! Congratulations!
The tickets are valued at $190 a piece, and you've got 2 of them. Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, 27 minutes before 10 o'clock and 61 degrees. Looks like it's going to be a nice day today, partly cloudy, highs at 81. And take that forecast and apply it to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It looks like a nice weekend ahead. All right, let's return now to Veterans News in the studio. We have 2 doctors, and they are here to take your questions and for you to learn from, and me as well. Dr. Jose Torres and Dr. Howard Eskildsen. Thank you, guys, and thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
And a couple other things I would mention. With the flu, if you develop onset of cough, fever, and body aches that comes on quite abruptly, let us know right away, because there is an antiviral medication that can be prescribed for this that can actually shorten the course of the flu. It does not kill the virus, but what it does is it blocks the virus. Gets into the body, it enters the cells in the respiratory tract or wherever.
Oh, wow.
It goes into the cells, it subverts the cells into making viruses instead of its usual function.
Oh, really?
And then it emerges from the cell to go on and spread further from the body and make the infection get worse. It blocks it from emergence from the cells. The virus can still get into the cells and get a few. So you get a few that get in there, but it keeps them so they can't get out and then spread, so you get worsening and worsening and worsening the disease. And if we can get you on the medication within a couple of days, we can reduce the severity and the duration of it.
I had never heard of that before. I always thought a virus was just, you can't do anything.
Yeah, one is called, basically that's true for most, well, that was true back in the days when I was in medical school about 40 years ago. But there are some treatments for many viral illnesses now, like hepatitis C can be cured.
Oh, wow.
There's HIV virus it can't be cured per se, but it can be treated and blocked and maintain people in good health. And we also for the influenza.
That's fascinating.
And there's some other things that may be on the horizon to help with that. But if a person becomes acutely ill with the flu and we can get them on this medication, we can at least reduce the severity and the duration of it.
So help me understand this. Did you mean like the sooner the better?
The sooner the better on this.
But somebody who's like deathly ill, they can be helped also, or is it too late?
We use the crossed finger technique on that.
Okay, gotcha.
Maybe. Yeah, so if a person's very, very ill and we really think it's a flu and it's been 4 or 5 days, we may still go ahead and try it just in hopes it'll shorten it.
Tell the listeners what you ask for. What do you ask for when you go? When you say,
it's called Tamiflu. Tamiflu is the name of it. And there's some other medicines out there, but the one that we have in the VA is Tamiflu.
All right. So just tell your doctor, hey, I heard a doctor on the radio, and this is what I need.
Well, mainly it's the symptoms. If this flu symptoms or flu-like symptoms are between 24, 48 hours, the medication works better. As long as the time passes, then the efficacy of the medicine is shorter.
So I feel like I felt something coming on New Year's Eve day. I remember thinking...
Too late. Sorry, can't help it.
So if I had gone like the next day before I had real symptoms, which would have been... Or would you say, well, you don't really have anything yet? Because I really didn't start feeling it until maybe a week later. But I felt like you know how you feel the beginning of a sore throat? Mm-hmm. That's what I felt.
Yeah, this is kind of a generalization, and there will be exceptions to it, but generally if it comes on slowly and gradually over several days, it's probably not the flu. And
okay. Well, maybe I didn't even have the flu.
And this time of year, right now, the flu tests that are being done for monitoring this are showing about 20% positive for flu, and then the rest is just the other run-of-the-mill cold and gunk viruses that go around and make us all sick periodically this time of year.
Now, is that a medical term, gunk viruses?
It's a highly refined, closely studied.
All right, we would love to hear from you out there. If you want to call in, if you have a question, somebody you know is going through the flu, probably, and like me, maybe you think it's the flu and it's not. So what do you do then? I mean, let's say I had come to you and I said, oh my gosh, I got the flu. You did your test. You said, no, you just have a cold. Do you treat it any differently?
We supportive care with the Tylenol, plenty of fluids, take it easy and rest, work excuses, try and avoid sharing it because these viral infections, I think of them as the gift that keeps on giving. And if we can do some of the stuff like in the video, wash your sneaking hands, we can at least help prevent spread to others on that.
I always use, when I go to the grocery store, when they have those little sheets
that's an excellent idea.
To rub down the shopping cart. I always, you know what I always think of? Did I share this with you once before?
No, I don't recall.
I always think there's probably been a baby sitting in that little seat, and that baby probably had a leaky diaper. You know, I always think, oh gosh, and then I'll put my eggs in there. I'll say, no, gosh, don't put your eggs in there because it's going to be on the egg carton or whatever. Does a virus live on an inanimate, cold object like an egg carton?
For a certain length of time,
really?
And different viruses have different survival lengths.
Yes.
We can be very thankful that the AIDS virus is a very wimpy virus because it dies very quickly outside the body. Other viruses can persist for days.
Wow.
So it just depends on the virus.
What could happen if it goes untreated, the flu? I mean, what's the worst possible scenario other than, I mean, you would die, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that. I mean, but does it ever progress into, you said it progresses into pneumonia? Could it progress into something else?
Respiratory issues, and that can be combined with other cardiovascular problems. If you have high blood pressure, if you have kidney problems, the whole system can shut down, and there's a term called sepsis, and that's when we have a generalized infection, and that after that is death.
Did you hear, there was a story this morning, and it kind of has a funny side story. I'll tell you the funny side story first. It's a guy, he looks like he's in his 30s on the video, and he forgot that his wife was pregnant. In other words, he had some what do you call it, amnesia? Okay, so that's the funny side story. But the actual first story was, I told you in the wrong order. The first story was that he had the flu or something that was causing him to cough and have a lot of phlegm coming up. He coughed so hard, he gave himself I don't know if a heart attack is right, but his heart they flew him on a helicopter to the what do you call it, to the hospital. Okay. So I never heard coughing so hard you could hurt your heart, and then somehow he lost his memory that his wife was pregnant. But
that would be pretty rare, but it's a traumatic sort of thing. There's intense pressures that affect the flow through there, but it could somehow disrupt the conduction system in the heart temporarily, kind of like some people had a blow to the chest. Athletes have gone into ventricular fibrillation or stuff like that from a blow to the chest. I mean, it's pretty rare, but that's conceivably something like that could happen. Now, there's some data that suggests there's a slightly higher risk of heart attack during an acute flu. In other words, if you have a tendency towards a heart attack, it possibly could be the final thing that pushes you over the edge to having a heart attack.
Because of the coughing or the sneezing?
I didn't say specifically whether it was the symptoms or just a direct effect of the influenza virus.
So talk about congestion a little bit. Somebody's really congested. Is there any way to, like some of the things you see over the counter will say helps with congestion. Is there a way to get the congestion either reduced or completely out of there?
Well, the congestion is part of the immune system defending ourselves. That's when we produce mucus. The mucus trap debris from the immune system fighting with the viruses and bacteria. And the only way for the body to get rid of it is coughing or through the nose or postnasal drip. And to reduce it, basically, it's good to see it. When we have that congestion type, means that our body is the immune system is working and it's trying to protect ourselves, but we need to have that mucus out of the system. The way or the mechanism how the body take that mucus out of the body is coughing or through the postnasal drip or nasal drips. Reduce or make that symptoms to improve is with some medications like rifenacin, that is a congestion medicine. Dextromethorphan is another one, but it's need to be used carefully in hypertension patients or patients with high blood pressure.
Isn't the fever actually also a fighting mechanism?
Yes.
So do we do ourselves a disservice by reducing the fever?
Fever is always good to have. It's always good to have fever. But if the fever start escalating, which means going 102 and over, then that's when we should control it, because if we have excessive heat in our body, then in some cases people can have trigger seizures.
You have another phone call. Let's take the phone call. If you'll put your headsets on, we will go to the caller. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Good morning, everyone. I had the flu, and it actually lasted for over a month. But so I'm feeling a lot better now. But during the peak of the thing, I was to the doctor multiple times, and he suggested, or he told me to go up to the hospital. And I did. And I was there for 6 hours, and they ran all kinds of tests and everything, and x-rays and the whole 9 yards. And the reason why I was sent up there is because I had stiffness in the neck, and my primary care doctor said I might have meningitis. So they tested me for that. I was close to getting a spinal, but fortunately the blood work and everything else they did came back. And what the doctor there did at the emergency was a big bag of saline. Apparently I was extremely dehydrated. And once that was finished, I felt a lot better just from getting the saline, and the emergency room sent me home. Now, funny thing, during the course of this, I wasn't running any temperature. So anyway, it took a long time for me to kick that. I still had the cough and everything else afterwards, but it took quite a while. And that was my experience with what was the flu. Now I'm waiting for the bills. But anyway, thank you very much for your information, and thank you, WOCA, and I don't know what else to say. This is a good hospital, good everything, good town to live in. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for calling. I'd just like to mention a couple of things about that. When you get to feeling crummy, even if you don't have a fever, your appetite goes, and you don't feel like doing anything. It's hard to get up and move around, and drink the water and fluid. So it's very easy to get dehydrated, and it sneaks up on you like a snake. You don't even realize that it's happening. So it's really important to force the fluids, the water, to make sure you don't become dehydrated. And that does another thing too. And he felt much better after the hydration, which makes perfect sense. And I'm really glad I didn't have to go through the spinal tap, because number one, it sounds like it wasn't necessary in retrospect.
Right. Yes.
And number two, that what we're looking for, you really don't want to have with those. But the other thing is, when you're dehydrated, the phlegm becomes thickened, and so it's hard to get out. And that's why the guaifenesin helps, because we want the phlegm there to, I call it nature's way of flushing the little turds out of your body that are making you sick. Pardon me.
Away with words.
And but basically that's what it's doing. It's getting rid of that. And so if we can keep the mucus thin so it does its job and gets out, but if we get dehydrated, it thickens up and it just stays there, and that can lead to blockage of the airways and can cause other very significant problems.
So I always get this old wives' tale backwards, but is there any truth to the fever fever, starva flu, or vice versa, whatever it is they say?
I'm not sure which way that goes.
Just feed both of them, right?
As far as eating, go with what your stomach tells you. In other words, your stomach says, I don't want anything in there. If you try and stuff it in there, it's going to send it back the other direction, which you really don't want to have that on top of a cold. But do drink plenty of fluids. And if you can't drink a lot, it's small amounts frequently. Sometimes with children who are dehydrated that can't keep things, we'll just have a teaspoonful every minute. And just do that for 20 minutes or so, and then you'll get, but on adults you can do more than that, but keep the fluids going.
And speaking of children, somebody texted to ask you to explain what an expectorant is. What is that?
That's something that loosens the mucus so you can get it out.
For children, is that a good thing?
For children, none of that's been shown to be effective.
Okay.
In fact, the Academy of Pediatricians has actually come out against most over-the-counter preparations for cough suppression in the pediatric age group. And the problem with the cough suppression is if the cough isn't just totally out of control, it's getting rid of that stuff. And so if you suppress it, you're allowing the enemy to be entrenched within a little bit longer before you expectorate or cough it out. Sorry, I almost said expectorate, and I don't think.
Well, that sounds like it might be the word or the verb.
Or cough up the phlegm.
We need to take a tiny break here. If you would like to call in, we would love to hear from you. We've got 12 minutes left in the program, 2-minute break. That gives us about 10 minutes left in the program. So we'll take a little break and be right back. If you want to call, the number is 622-9622. The area code is 352. Again, this is Veterans News, and once every month, Dr. Jose Torres and Dr. Howard Eskildsen come in from the VA clinic here in Ocala, and we'll give you information about where that is if you're new to the area and a veteran. But obviously, the information that we learned from Dr. Torres and Dr. Eskildsen is applicable to all of us, whether we're veterans or not. And we will be right back.
The College of Central Florida is committed to being your first choice for quality higher education. CF has locations in Marion, Citrus, and Levy counties and offers more than 60 academic programs. Earn a certificate, associate, or bachelor's degree with Florida's 2+2 program. A student can complete an associate in arts at CF and be guaranteed admission to a state of Florida university. CF is ranked number 13 in the U.S. for affordability, is military friendly, and offers a full student life experience. Make CF your first choice. Call 352-873-5800.
Keep up with what's going on in the downtown area with Ocala Downtown Newspaper. Delivering thousands of newspapers to businesses in the downtown area, Ocala Downtown is there to keep you informed. They even have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask in return is that you tell them where you heard about it. It's simple. For more info, just call Tom's Picks, 352-804-1223, and pick up your copy of the Downtown Ocala newspaper today.
And now read Ocala Downtown Newspaper online.
Here is your 30-second news brief. An expelled former student of a Broward County high school opened fire at students and staff yesterday, killing at least 17 people. The gunman is in custody. Governor Rick Scott ordered flags to fly at half-staff until Monday to honor those victims. Following the school shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, blood banks have issued a plea for donors, and a defense systems manufacturer in Gainesville says they will offer bulletproof inserts small enough to fit into a school backpack. And that is your news brief from The Source.
Howdy folks, RL here for Dairy Queen again to tell you about what's hot and what's not. Dairy Queen has some of the best char-grilled chicken breasts on earth, as well as their chicken breast salad. And the burgers are exceptional, cooked on a real grill for the best flavor and less fat. And for dessert, blizzards are unequaled. Personally, banana split is my all-time favorite. Dairy Queen Silver Springs, where we always treat you like kings and queens.
All right, 10 minutes before 10 o'clock, let's return to Veterans News with Dr. Jose Torres and Dr. Howard Eskildsen, and they are both from the VA clinic here in Ocala. And this is a service of Veterans News, Vets Helping Vets, by the way, started by Hank Whittier and Joe, I can't remember the other gentleman's name, he's since passed away, but they started the whole thing. It's amazing how big it's grown, right?
Mm-hmm. It really is.
So you actually you both work at the clinic, and where is the clinic? Is it in the Cascades?
Yes, sir. The Ocala VA Clinic is in 1515 East Silver Springs Boulevard in the Cascade Building, Suite 226. And the telephone is 352-369-3320.
Do you have walk-ins, or do you have to...
We have open access, that's how it's called, and each patient has assigned a team, and the patient go to the window and talk to the clerk, notify the reason of the visit, and depending of the reason of the visit, then the patient is guided to see the nurse, pharmacist, or the clerk can provide help if it's only just a technical or to get an appointment. For veterans that are not established, a triage nurse will assess the patient. The clerk is the first responder. So the clerk will guide and triage where the patient is going to go.
Okay. Yeah, I never really understood that word triage. I know that's the first thing that you guys do. I just don't know what it means.
Triage is French for sorting. You sort who needs to be seen first, who can wait a little bit.
Okay.
Who in the battlefield is who should you not even bother to treat.
So here's what fools me about it. Because of the TRI, I automatically thought there was three things going on. I guess not.
Yeah. Just it's basically sorting by levels of acuity and how can we deal with this appropriately in the most expeditious fashion.
So if I were to follow your lead, and you had the flu, would you do everything you're saying? I mean, obviously there's a professional thing, and maybe you say, you know what, chicken soup really does make a difference. I mean, what would you do if you had the flu? What did you do? You had the flu, right?
I'm going through it.
You're going through it right now?
Well, that's
why I'm sitting far over as I am.
Yeah.
So you're not sure
I'm
if
kidding.
It's the cold or the flu?
It's cold, yeah. I was like liquids. I got vaccinated, so I'm basically, it's not hitting me hard like other population. And like we mentioned earlier in the program, we've been seeing a lot of patients with upper respiratory infections. So you can get sick also, and what we do is just hydration. If fever comes up, just try to control it, and a lot of chicken soup.
So in your personal life, you do use some home remedies, right?
Yes, we do.
And it's chicken soup is nice and fluid. It sits well with the tummy if the tummy's not really agreeing with other types of food. And just the steam and the moisture sometimes kind of opens up the nasal passages. And it kind of reminds me of a Far Side joke that I read years ago about this baby chicken was in bed and his mom was feeding him something. And she says, "Look at it this way. It'll make you feel better. At least it was nobody we knew."
I used to using my voice for a living. It's always a pain when whatever it is that you have makes it impossible to talk or very hard to talk. I had read somewhere, and I'll tell you in advance, it didn't help at all. But I wanted to share it with you. That if you take like really hot mustard, like in a Chinese restaurant, the mustard in a Chinese restaurant?
Yes.
You put it in a bowl of hot water, and you put a towel over your head and just kind of breathe in the steam from that it would help. It didn't do anything for me.
I would have thought that just the breathing in the steam would have helped, but probably apparently not.
No, I don't. I mean, maybe it does for some people, but I don't know what Chinese mustard has in it, but it's really hot.
And sometimes nebulizers can help a little bit. Gargling with salt water, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon of salt in a cup of water. That may help loosen up some of the secretions at the back of the throat. That helps sometimes too.
You just brought something to mind that we haven't touched on. Talk about the flu or the cold for somebody who has asthma. It must be doubly as bad, huh?
Yes, because the reaction of the immune system can trigger bronchial spasms, and then the airway is going to close, and you're going to have an asthma attack. Or if you have COPD, can trigger a COPD attack.
Really? What does that look like? A COPD attack?
It's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's basically the result of chronic smokers or exposure to any chemicals that can damage the tissue inside the lungs. And the way how they work is constrictions of the airway, which is the muscles that we have in the bronchi, limiting the air to flow out.
Yeah, it's kind of like a balloon. You know how it's easy to blow the air into the balloon? When you let go, it's kind of that type of sound. It's real slow coming back out. Same type of thing. That's the obstruction, is the obstruction to the breathing out. So you get the chest puffed up, but they can't get it to go out.
So do they use what is the nebulizer? Is that what you call it? Do they use those
inhalers, nebulizer
more often or the same?
When you have an exacerbation, we prescribe the nebulizer and inhalers to be used more frequent.
And go ahead.
I'm sorry, we do have another phone call, and just put the headset on. We'll squeeze this one in. We're getting close to the end here. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling.
Good morning. About 7 years ago, the St. Petersburg Times printed a story about the benefit of hops, which is an herb that's found in beer and other food items. And the story was that the hops could prevent virus or bacterial germs from multiplying. And it was a very interesting story. Would the doctors be interested in looking into that information? And thank you very much.
Thank you for the call. Thank you.
Thanks for the call. I've not heard anything specifically about hops in the past. I'd be interested in seeing whatever was out there.
That almost sounds like beer would be a good remedy, wouldn't it?
I'll drink to that. Well, no, actually, I don't like beer. But
it just sounds good, right?
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that may or may not help. Studies need to be done on that. And I haven't seen anything specifically on hops, but a lot of the medications we have now, including aspirin, digitalis, and several other things, came from plant materials. We say, well, you use this and it did make a person feel better, so then the work was done to find out why. And it turned out to be some benefits. A lot of them, we think we've got great promise, and it all falls apart, but it might be worth studying.
And I would think, this is just the layperson's curiosity, I guess, that we're all different. That my DNA is different, my blood type is different, my heritage is different. There's so much different that from all of us that maybe what works for me works differently for you, etc. Right?
That's exactly right. And that's what makes it so challenging to find out a general recommendation.
Well, guys, you gave us a great show again today. Thank you for taking time out to do this. I know you volunteered to come over here and do it, so thank you for that.
It's a pleasure.
Dr. Jose Torres, Dr. Howard Eskildsen. If we need to call you, do we just call the VA clinic?
Yes, sir.
And what's the number over there again?
352-369-3320.
All right, this is WOCA Ocala. On behalf of Veterans News, God bless America. Thank you, guys.
From the mountain to the prairie.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The president set to address the nation at 11 a.m. Eastern after yesterday's deadly shooting at a Florida high school. Police saying suspect Nicholas Cruz pulled the fire alarm.